Live, Laugh, Larceny discusses true petty crimes that may be disturbing to some.
Or could be easy listening to all you psychopaths out there.
All stories are based on actual events, but details may vary.
Listener discretion is not advised.
Live,
Laugh.
Larceny. Welcome to Live, Laugh, Larceny. At what age is it unacceptable to be bashful? This is Trevin.
And I'm Amanda. I'm feeling pretty bashful right now, so I hope it's still okay.
Well, that's what I thought. I'm a naturally bashful person, but then I thought about it and it's like, is a grown man allowed to say he's bashful?
Of course.
Then bashful I am.
So, you bashful bitch, what is your dreadful dilemma this week?
So my dreadful dilemma has to do with a streaming service that we all use, and you may actually be using at this very moment. I want to talk about Spotify.
Okay.
And I think there is one, but it's not convenient enough. I think there should be an incognito mode when using Spotify.
Okay, do tell. What are you doing on Spotify, Trevin?
When I write these stories, I like to get myself in the mood. And I used to listen to only horror movie soundtracks, but then I've started doing binaural beats and just letting the sound waves play around while I'm writing.
Ooh.
I feel like it keeps me in the zone and I just love it.
Okay.
Up until I started really taking this seriously with my writing, I used to really trust my Spotify weekly playlist. Like, here's the new things this week that are based off what you like that you will probably also enjoy.
Oh, no.
And I started using that Spotify DJ, the AI guy that just comes on and just says, hey, how you doing? Let's listen to this. We think you like it. But now Spotify's doing a great job in paying attention to what my listening habits are. And my listening habits lately have just been binaural beats for writing and power pop for working out, because that's what Emily and I listen to. So now when I get stuff from the Spotify DJ, he says, how you doing? I just thought of something that I think you might really like. Here is 40 hertz tone played over blah, blah, blah sound wave in G. And then it's just like, boo. I skip it and then I'll get another thing. Well, here's 30-second sine wave.
They're like, what about C major?
Yeah.
They're like, what the hell, man? This usually does it for you.
Yeah, but these things, they could be all the same song for the most part because they're all
Yeah.
background stuff. So when this guy's coming on here and offering me to listen to the new hotness with binaural beats, I'm like, no, buddy, like tell me more about what Gaga's up to.
Right. Maybe you can just save those beats in like a playlist or whatever. I don't know.
Well, it would still show the stats that I listen to it a lot.
Right.
So that's why I need an incognito mode for when I'm doing that, to where
Yeah.
it doesn't say, hey, you listen to 40 hours of this a month, and I don't want to be seen as that guy.
Damn. That is dreadful. You might have to use one streaming music platform just for that. And use a completely other one for your uplifting day-to-day life.
I think so, because I don't like what's getting suggested.
Or just create two different Spotify accounts, but that's a lot. I don't know.
Oh, like the little duo thing for couples. It's just
Yeah.
my two personalities.
Exactly. When you want to get dark and demonic and write a story, sign in here. If you want to be a normal person just trying to get by, click here.
Not cheap, though.
It's not cheap and it's not easy. Well, Trevin, I also have a dreadful dilemma. And ironically, mine also kind of has to do with music in a bit. But mine is a regret, a missed opportunity, if you will, that I know I'll probably never get again. My family went out of town and we went on a little trip to Oklahoma. I mean, it's like right on the border of Oklahoma. And my friend Sarah, shout out Sarah, her mom has the hookups at this hotel, and it's a casino, concert venue place, but it also has a water park and is kid friendly and blah, blah, blah. So she's like, come visit me, come see my new baby. So we made a trip. During this trip, there was a musical concert going on. Okay. And that musical concert had Genuine. Do you know Genuine?
Pony.
Bow,
Riding
bow,
my pony.
bow, bow, down, down, bow. Yeah, you know it.
My butt cheeks.
are clenching. No.
Come on, jump on it.
The living legend. So anyway, he was performing, okay?
That is so crazy. And so you didn't plan the date to coincide with Genuine being there?
No.
Because I know you fuck with some Genuine.
Yes. I love Pony with it all. So no, it was completely random that was happening the same time that we were there.
Serendipitous.
But it was kind of like a kid thing. Like we have 4 kids amongst all of us, that were there. And we did have one night, the night of the concert, where all of us adults went to dinner and we had her older teen nieces just watch them for a couple of hours. We went to eat and we were coming back just to check on them. And lo and motherfucking behold, Genuine himself in the flesh was standing in the lobby that we were standing in, okay?
Ooh.
He was on his phone. He was going live, I assume on Instagram or whatever he was doing. Maybe Snapchat. I don't know. But he was talking into his phone. He was wearing all leather, like an entire leather outfit. And a couple people did come up to him and ask for photos. But I wasn't 100% because he wasn't the only one performing. There was Drew Hill from Cisco was there.
Okay. He produced for Will Smith a lot too.
Okay, so there were a bunch of other people there and I was like, is that Genuine? When I think of Genuine, I just think of his songs. Like I don't think of him. I couldn't put a face to the name. But I was like, if that is Genuine, oh my fucking God. Like I'm standing in the same room as him. And I was kind of nerding out. And then he got on his phone and then he left. I looked him up. That was the exact guy, the exact beard. I saw Genuine and I didn't even get to approach him or say hi or get a photo or anything. So it's a little bit dreadful for me. I regret it a little. But at the same time, I don't want to bother the guy either. If that, it's like a hard thing to know what to do.
I totally get that. I've had a couple of regrets like that too, where I've seen famous people. I once urinated in the urinal next to Kane Hodder, the guy who played as Jason, like the guy who wore the mask and did it for most of the movies.
What? How did that happen? Was it like at
It was at a convention.
A convention? I was going to say, oh my God.
But I was too bashful.
Well, your dick was also out.
Well, yeah.
I mean... That would make me a little bashful as well,
True.
That's kind of a harder way to be like, sorry, this is weird. We're peeing. I love you.
Yeah.
I was at least fully clothed. Part of me was like, I think that's Genuine, but I don't know. I hadn't seen his face in so long. But man, oh man. Wow, I cannot believe that you peed next to Jason.
I did.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I was really scared.
So this week, we are doing a round of top 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Top 5.
And I'm going first.
I'm ready for it. I really like top 5s. They're just a fun way to hit you with 5 fast facts,
It really is. I've taken different routes with them. Sometimes I like to do quick little, like there's not much to each one of them, and I just want to see if you can guess them. Sometimes I do have like specific things. I'm not going to lie, this one might be one of my favorite top 5s I've ever done.
Oh my.
Yeah, so let's hype that up real quick here. So today, I'm going to give you all the top 5 ways to spot a liar.
Oh shit.
So I am coming to you from time.com. There was a really, really, really insightful article, and it was titled, How to Tell If Someone is Lying to You, According to Body Language Experts. The 2 experts that they interviewed were Tracy Brown, who is a body language expert and author of How to Detect Lies, Fraud, and Identity Theft. And then the other was Dr. Lillian Glass, author of The Body Language of Liars.
Ooh.
So, Trevin, would you like to guess any of the top 5 ways that you can tell someone is lying just by looking at them?
Eye contact.
Okay.
Would you say like the inflection in their voice? Does that count as one?
Oh, yes, it does.
Would the use of filler words count, like a bunch of ums and so's?
Ooh, that's a good guess.
And perspiration.
Very sweaty.
That guy's a liar. He's too sweaty.
I love it. Well, let me give you their top 5, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Number 5 is hands. When people are being dishonest, they tend to face their palms away from you. Have you heard of that?
Oh, I thought you were just going to say they were fidgeting.
Oh, okay. It's an unconscious signal that they're holding back information, emotions, or even lying. They may put them in their pockets or even slide them under the table. So that one was actually pretty fascinating to me because I was kind of thinking like you, eye contact, tone of voice, these things. But the hands, okay, so facing away, I don't know. I just have never even thought to look at something like that. But
I guess I kind of get that. Sort of like when you're stressed or something, you kind of feel like you cringe in a little bit more. Like, yeah, you're not as open.
yeah.
It's almost like your hands are also holding in
a lot of bullshit.
That's right.
So number 4, eyes. So you did get that one. Many studies show that individuals will look away briefly while lying. Yet, and this was really fascinating to me, a study from 2015 conducted by the University of Michigan also found that those who lied were more likely to stare than those who were truthful.
I've had that happen a couple times.
Really?
Like as a kid where I've lied and I'm just like, if you break this eye contact, it's over. The game is up. And I stared him down.
That is a good point because my oldest, she will look at me dead in the eye. She'll be like, no, Mom, no, I didn't do it. But I can tell because she did one of the other things on the list that I'll save for later. But
Sweaty.
Yes. Oh my God. But I have more about the staring thing. 70% of clips of people lying showed them staring directly at the people they were lying to. So if you think that they're not lying just because, but they were looking right into my soul. No, 70% are. Okay. Number 3, this was the thing I was telling you earlier that my daughter did. This is how I can tell when my daughter and my husband are lying. So everyone listen up, people.
Uh-oh.
Mouth. The research conducted at UCLA found that people who lie are more likely to purse their lips when asked sensitive questions. Pursing the lips could also mean someone doesn't want to engage in the conversation at hand. It's an instinctive reflex, meaning you don't want to speak.
And your husband and daughter both, their lips were made for pursing.
Exactly. Maybe that's how I can tell with them so easily. They have the biggest lips.
Yeah, very pouty lips.
Yeah, I think both of my daughters are going to get that pouty ass mouth. But yes, anytime they lie, they both do it. It's like their big lips just kind of fold in within themselves. They just do weird things with their mouths. I don't know, guys. It's a real one. Number 2, change in complexion. Have you ever noticed someone go white as a ghost when speaking?
Yes.
That could be a sign of untruthfulness. This signals that the blood is rushing from the face, which is another sign of lying.
Rushing from your face right to your lion ass.
Right to that lion ass. I'm saying. All right, Trevin, are you ready for number 1?
Yes.
And this was another one that you guessed. Tone of voice. When people are nervous, the muscles in the vocal cords might tighten up, an instinctive response to stress, leading the voice to sound very high-pitched. You might also notice a creak in someone's voice, clearing the throat. A means of coping with the discomfort of tightened muscles can also at times signal dishonesty.
Yep.
So I learned a lot from all of that. I mean, I guessed a couple of them too, but I don't know. It's just things to look out for,
Yeah, and I think in this day and age, spotting a liar is very important.
It is. And if you are ever asking somebody a question and they're like, no, I would never do that.
They're like blinking and winking and
They're blinking, their hands are away from you, and they're sweating so badly, and then they're white as a ghost. They're lying. Liar, no doubt. Now we all know.
I like imagining the person who is like the perfect poster boy of a liar who does all those things at once.
They're staring at you so hard, even though the sweat is dripping into their eye. Then they're a liar.
Well, that was a fun top 5. I think that's something we can all use in our day-to-day lives.
Yeah.
So why don't I give you guys something that you don't need to use in your day-to-day lives?
Okay.
But mine does actually have to do with lying too. I'm going to give you the top 5 most outrageous health scams.
Oh my God. Okay.
So I will be working from a list created by businessinsider.com. They did not list them in the order of most outrageous or anything like that. They just said, here's 12 crazy things, and I picked my favorite ones to talk about.
Ooh, love that.
So this is in the order of my choosing.
Okay.
Number 5, the tractor, the pain-relieving metal rod. Back in the late 1700s, physician Elisha Perkins invented the tractor. He claimed the small metal rod could relieve rheumatisms, gout, and various aches by drawing out, quote, noxious electrical fluids. All you had to do was stroke it along the affected body part. The sales pitch for the product was apparently so convincing that George Washington ordered a set. But later scientific studies determined that the tractor's healing ability was nothing more than a placebo effect, and eventually, sales died.
Somebody scammed George Washington?
Yep, he just watched infomercials back in the 1700s, I guess, and picked himself up one.
We are all susceptible.
It's true. Number 4, the Harold M. Hoxie Cancer Tonic. The FDA estimates that Harold M. Hoxie, a coal miner with zero medical training, scammed customers out of $50 million by hawking phony cancer treatments. He started selling his cures in the 1920s, both in his clinics and through a mail-order business. He continued to do so until 1960, when his clinics were shut down and his products banned. Aside from the tonics, Hoxie also operated a clinic where he treated skin cancer by applying a paste made partly of arsenic and zinc. All it really did was burn off the skin. The FDA was finally able to shutter the whole Hoxie operation in 1960.
Oh my God. That is so cruel.
Yeah.
Can you talk about a more vulnerable population of people?
It's like, yeah, of course I've got customers. There's people lined up looking for what I say I'll sell.
Yeah. Damn.
Number 3, the Vrillium tube, protection against any disease. This $300 brass tube from the 1940s would later be deemed, quote, therapeutically worthless by the FDA. The manufacturer said the 2-inch long tube contained, quote, healing radioactive alien rays called Vril, and that it would cure any disease you have if you wore it around your neck. In reality, it was just a brass tube filled with barium chloride, a chemical used as a powerful horse laxative. The tube wasn't totally harmless, however. In a court case, one father testified that his diabetic son died because he stopped his insulin injections in favor of the tube.
Oh no.
Yeah, which...
It's something you can wear around your neck?
Yeah, it looks like a little copper nail, and you just kind of wear it like on a necklace.
Oh, okay. Because you're wearing it on your chest, it's just supposed to cure anything and everything?
Yeah, I guess just because you're always holding it on your skin.
Oof.
Number 2, the Orgon Energy Accumulator. Austrian physicist Wilhelm Reich believed in the existence of a universal healing force called Orgon. Just before we go any further, it's not real.
Okay.
So in 1939, after relocating from Europe to Long Island, New York, he invented the Orgon Energy Accumulator. The device, Reich claimed, could gather up and administer concentrated doses of orgon to people. He believed it could cure colds, arthritis, ulcers, and even cancers. According to thoughtcode.com, the Orgon Energy Accumulator was, quote, a 6-sided box constructed of alternating layers of organic materials to attract the energy and metallic materials to radiate the energy towards the center of the box. Patients would sit inside the accumulator and absorb orgon energy through their skin and lungs. The claims were so egregious that FDA told Reich to stop selling the devices, and when he didn't, they sent him to jail.
Oh my God. A big old box that you sit in.
It just looks like a little safe.
Oh.
Like you just get inside this weird safe, and it's got very thick walls, and inside of it are padded with different materials.
I don't know. That sounds terrifying.
Yeah, it's kind of silly. And number 1, the oscilloclast. Dr. Albert Abrams believed that all diseases resulted from a disharmony of electronic oscillations in the body. So he invented a device that could fix these things. Better known as the black box, the oscilloclast played back electronic waves into the body, thus creating harmony and eradicating diseases. In 1950s, the FDA prosecuted Abrams over the false claims.
Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting all of these to be like from the deep past, you know? And I found that to be way more fascinating, actually, because they didn't have the certain technology that we do, and they were doing all sorts of crazy things.
Oh, yeah. There was tons on there that I didn't do, where it was like there was a weight loss cigarette. There was a certain pipe that if you put your cigarette through it, it was supposed to heal your lungs as you smoked.
That is just delusion wrapped up.
There was also diet glasses that if you wear them, it made you want to eat less things.
Oh my God.
It's pretty wild.
Well, what an article. If you guys want to read the whole thing, it sounds like there's some really good ones in there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Well, you know what else we have a lot of good ones of?
Silly jokes.
That too, Trevin, but how about a few ads? And we are back.
Welcome, welcome.
It is my week to go first. And I found this story in the news, and it's just one of those that when I saw it, it sounds unbelievable, okay, that this happened, but here we are, and it is true.
Here we are, and it is true.
So I'm not going to give any more of this away. Let's just jump right in, and here we go. Anger is a tricky little emotion that everyone handles differently. Some bottle it up so tightly inside that they give themselves a hernia, while others let out their frustration regularly and at inopportune moments. Would you like to round up $1 to help save a baby sea turtle from pollution? Fuck you and your dirty sea turtles! No matter how your anger is expressed, it lurks deep down in all of us, searching for ways to escape. Today's petty crime is about one man's journey navigating the anger within him and what not to do when looking for a healthy release. Welcome back to Couples Counseling, Dieter and Jill. How have things been since we last spoke?
Well, Doc, to be completely honest, I haven't been this unfulfilled in my entire life. I can just feel my soul being sucked straight out of me, like a baby sucking its pacifier, but less cute.
That does sound very upsetting to be going through. How about you, Dieter? You seem upset.
I'm mad.
I can see that you're feeling mad right now. I encourage you both to find your own individual stress relievers. Jill, find something for yourself that brings you joy. And Dieter, we've got to find a healthy way to release your anger. I don't care if it's screaming at the trees in your birthday suit. Find a way to let the rage go. What you have just overheard is an extremely awkward and fictional therapy session based on true events from 2005. Dieter was desperate to make his marriage work with Jill. After all, they had created a pretty decent life together in Recklinghausen, Germany. They had a stylish apartment, a cute dog, and spent a lot of time rolling around together under the covers.
Don't spank me, Mommy.
But besides all of that, their relationship was pretty unbearable for both of them. Jill was disgusted with Dieter's soiled socks and even filthier mouth. And Dieter despised Jill's constant need to watch low-budget rom-coms while sobbing through them. As Jill grew more depressed with their situation, Dieter's man fits escalated. However, they had taken what their therapist suggested to heart about finding a healthy outlet. Jill reflected back on the last time she was truly full of joy. Surprisingly, the warm memory that resurfaced was one of her in elementary art class, creating a papier-mâché ball. Jill laughed as she remembered the slimy feeling of glue on her hands and damp newspaper. When it clicked,
Eek! I just found my hobby, bitch!
Dieter's journey wasn't so easy. He tried meditating, but all he could hear were Jill's sappy soaps playing in the background.
It was always you, Romeo!
He tried getting back into kickboxing, but with Jill's drying papier-mâché pieces hung all around his punching bag, it was impossible. It was clear to Dieter that his outlet would have to be outside of their apartment. It was on a summer day when Dieter felt himself becoming more and more triggered by Jill. The papier-mâché had taken over their small space, and he felt like at any moment, he could let out a brutal and unexpected verbal lashing.
You dumbass!
He knew it was time to go for a drive. Not knowing where to go, he sped down a road surrounded by a gigantic and lush forest. His heart rate increased, ticking as if it was a rage bomb about to blow. That's when Dieter remembered the words of his couples therapist. I don't care if it's screaming at the trees in your birthday suit. Find a way to let the rage go. Dieter's body temperature was rising as he gripped his steering wheel firmly and pulled off on the side of the street. With no one else in sight, he stepped under the canopy of evergreen trees. The temperature had gone down, but Dieter still felt his anger heating him up from the inside. He stepped out of his clothing and further into the woods. Feeling small and secure in the vast land, Dieter let out a deep scream unearthed from within. He began grunting, shouting, and even cursing at the trees surrounding him,
Fuck you, tree!
unleashing every last bit of resentment he had compiled. It was then, standing there naked and sweaty in the forest, Dieter had released the angry beast inside of him. Arriving back at the apartment, he gently pushed past Jill's sticky artwork hanging from their ceiling and embraced his wife.
I found my angry outlet, baby. Now put down that wet paper and give me a kiss.
The pair spent a couple of happy months together this way. They purchased a storage unit to hold Jill's masterpieces, and Dieter visited the forest once or twice a week, screaming at nature in the nude.
Why am I scared to file my taxes?
Yet, unbeknownst to him, one day while he was hollering all alone, there were others in the forest. In July of 2005, authorities in Recklinghausen, Germany, were contacted by disturbed hikers. They reported that there was a naked man shouting at trees in a nearby forest. Arriving at the scene, they identified the bare-naked bellower as 43-year-old German man Dieter Braun. When asked why, the man tried to explain his actions, claiming that it was his marriage guidance counselor that advised him to run around naked, shouting at trees. Dieter went on to say, the stress release technique had worked perfectly until I was arrested. Venting my anger on the trees has stopped me from shouting at my wife. If I didn't go to the woods and scream at the trees, then my marriage would probably be over. For me, it's a type of relaxation therapy. Feeling the breeze on my naked skin really calms me down. Regardless of his reasoning, authorities charged him with causing a public nuisance, and there was no punishment posted publicly. Like I said, anger can be tricky to manage. Even when you think you've found a healthy way to let it go, you can still end up locked up. Next time you feel yourself getting heated, try taking some deep breaths or screaming into a large pillow. I'd suggest anything other than reprimanding trees in the nude.
That is a weird thing to do naked.
It is. It's very weird. The reason I started it out with the therapy scene is because I wanted that in there. Not only was it fun to just write, but he blamed the whole entire thing on the fact that his guidance counselor told him to go yell at trees naked. So I wanted to make it make sense and have her maybe say it in a sarcastic way, like I wrote it. And maybe then he just said, okay, she said it. I'm going to go for it. I don't know. I just can't myself picture a therapist saying that word for word and not being sarcastic. Right?
Yeah, probably for the most part.
Like, I'd love for you, instead of yelling at your spouse, just take it all off, go into a forest, and shout.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't think she would prescribe it. But I did like that you had that. That is the fun about the way that we write our stories, where we do kind of have our fake stuff, and we have our real stuff. And I do that a lot with you, where I pick up on something off that you do, and I'm like, is this a fake funny thing or a real funny thing? But I totally get it. Like, you want to make it make sense. You're also working with whatever context the article gives you. And yeah, I would totally not leave that out either. The therapist has to say it for the story, for sure.
Yes, and she had to be in his mind again later. I wanted it like that. I don't know how it actually went down. Also, Jill, completely made up, don't know her name, don't know if she's into paper mache. Okay, guys, I was just trying to think of an environment that would make somebody need to run out into the woods and scream naked. And I was like, okay, maybe they were in a small apartment. Maybe she was paper macheing everywhere. Maybe he couldn't work out there. And I was just thinking of funny things that I could make her do.
Yeah, you're really going after the craft crowd today.
I know.
Crafting makes me want to scream.
I know. I don't know where that came from, but I was like, paper mache is messy. When you make something, it's usually these large things that have to hang and dry. And I was like, that would be very frustrating. And I'm a craft girl. Like, I love it.
It's true. You are, yeah.
But if someone was like, my new thing, my new outlet is making gigantic paper mache pieces, that would be a little difficult, especially if you were in a very small apartment. So that's just what I built in my mind. I don't know, but he needed an outlet. That's what he did. It sounded like he had done it multiple times and it had never been a problem before. And there were other people in the forest that day. So
I know you told me there's no photos of him. I was hoping that he was a big hairy guy and that people would have thought it was Bigfoot or something.
I would love that. Unfortunately, I could not find a single, not even a mug shot. And I looked and looked and looked. I'll look more, but I couldn't find an image at all to even base anything about this guy's appearance. But I would love that if he was like super hairy and it was like a dad and his son hiking and he's like, oh my God. And the boy's like, is that Bigfoot? And the dad's like, oh my God, shield your eyes, Timmy.
It makes me think of Austin Powers at the very end where they do all the, it looks like a giant Johnson. It makes me think of that.
But no, I don't know what he looks like, and I don't know what set him off to have to do this repeatedly as his own way, but it offended some people.
I get it. Even if the therapist said it in a sarcastic way, and you're like, you know what? So crazy it might work, sort of a thing. Why would you pick a public place to go to it? And then I kind of thought about that. Like, I live here. If I wanted to go scream at nature, I would have to go to a park.
Right.
I would just go to my parents' property or some place to do it where I know it's not public land.
That's true. In all the articles, it gave the bare minimum of detail. I don't know who found him, and I don't even know the name of the forest or anything. I just know the town. I would have loved to know if it was way more public. Like, are there walking trails in this place? Is it that public, or is it like a place where there's no trail at all? Just a bunch of trees and no one else really should have been there. I don't know. I can't give anyone that answer.
Yeah, I would hope that he would pick something more secluded.
You would hope.
You never know. I don't know, though. Being naked in the woods seems to be the thing. When I'm scrolling through our Instagram, that's the stuff they're always telling me to look at. They're like, here's naked people in the forest.
Really? Maybe we've got it all wrong. Maybe this is what we all should be doing. I don't know.
I don't know.
Write in and let us know.
Yeah, are you naked in the forest right now?
Wow, that would actually be really cool. We've had somebody tell us that they've listened to us while they grocery shop, but I've never had anyone say they've listened to us naked in the forest.
I'm ready for the first. So this week, I am going to tell a story from the news. And you know, it's kind of funny. We had talked about this before we had even started recording, and we didn't get to it. The whole reason why I picked the intro was to have made reference to this, and I didn't. Today is my birthday.
Oh my God, Trevin.
Yeah, it's like this episode's already so fun and special on its own. We didn't need it to get any more awesome, but here we are.
Here we are. I know. We even talked about that right before we started. Oh my God. Everyone, stop what you're doing. Stop the podcast. I don't even care. And go tell Trevin happy birthday.
And give a 5-star review if you haven't.
5-star review for the day of his birth.
Thank you. So the whole reason why I said at what age is it unacceptable to be bashful? 34, it's still acceptable for me.
Oh my God.
Because I'm a little bashful guy.
You're 34?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The day this episode is coming out is my birthday.
Oh my
so
God.
it's not that Amanda and I are recording on my birthday. The day you guys are listening to this is my birthday.
Yes, that's why you must stop right now and do what I said.
So I made this a point. You know, we've done stories around the time that is our birthdays, but I thought it's a little more special when the episode comes out on the actual day of.
Oh, God, yeah.
So I've been going back and forth. What kind of story am I going to do? How am I going to make it tie back to me? And then I just started thinking about the bigger picture. And I thought about life and how, yeah, this is a 34th birthday, but there's just so many birthdays a person has. So I'm going to tell you a petty story that spans a lifetime.
Woo-hoo!
It's something I've never done before, and it's just another way of us keeping it fresh. So here we go. In one person's life, countless milestones and occurrences shape their journey. However, which stories become the focus often defines how we perceive them. Legends and rumors, while captivating, only reveal fragments of a person's story. Perhaps it's the nostalgia that accompanies my birthday, but this year has prompted me to explore the bigger picture. Throughout my career as a petty crime writer, I've confronted the darkest deeds committed by strangers, seeking to unearth the humanity within. We are all complex individuals with intricate lives, and as storytellers, we must draw our conclusions with the context we have, no matter how little. While it may be tempting to reduce a person's entire existence to a single act, say, peeing on a Kellogg's cereal conveyor belt, the truth is often more complex. If I found myself in the unfortunate position of accidentally urinating on a stream of breakfast food, I'd want you to know that I too grapple with personal demons on a daily basis. Perhaps there's more to me than just being labeled as a serial pisser. But of course, this realization won't deter me from exploring similar complexities in my future stories. It's just another aspect of what makes me painfully human. In honor of my birthday, I've decided to share a man's entire life. Not only because context is crucial, but also because I paid $3.86 to access a 4-part article, and I'm determined to get my money's worth. The serene atmosphere of a white room remains still and cold, illuminated by parted blinds. Black and white photographs delicately hang from a string of yarn, interspersed with handcrafted cards written in crayon. "Get well soon, Grandpa," the words read, floating above 2 stick figures, one big and one little. The only sound is the gentle hum of an oxygen machine, artificially filling the lungs of an old man as he gazes out into the piercing sunlight.
Mr. Martin?
A voice calls from behind the slightly ajar main door, followed by 2 quick knocks. "Yeah, come in," the old man wheezed, straining his chest to carry his voice. The door slowly swung open as a young woman in teal scrubs entered the room.
Hello, Mr. Martin. My name is Grace. I just graduated from St. Margarita's nursing program. I'm going to be your hospice nurse for the daytime hours. The other nurses have told me so much about you. I think you'll make the perfect first patient for me here.
Mr. Martin slowly pushed on the right wheel of his wheelchair, facing his new nurse. "And I think you'll make a perfect last nurse for me," he said with a bittersweet smile. The nurse began flipping through her charts, moving around bags of medical fluids, and scanning the room for personal items that may trigger a conversation to break the eerie silence. Looking over at Mr. Martin's memory-inducing craft project, she spotted an interesting photo. In the naturally sepia-colored photograph was a young man, smiling and holding up a painting of 2 people sitting at a dinner table.
Cheese.
Did you used to be an artist?
Grace asked in a very curious tone. Looking at the photo, Martin chuckled to himself. "No, that's my good friend Kent Anderson. Kent really loved art. He was actually brothers with the comedian Louis Anderson." Grace kindly smiled, trying to hide her lack of familiarity with the comedian.
Sorry, I was born in 2000. I don't know a lot of old stuff.
Realizing that a lesson on 90s comedians was a pointless venture, Mr. Martin decided to take the conversation in another direction. "There's a photograph behind the one of Kent. Why don't you pull it out and take a look?" Grace unclipped the photo of Kent Anderson, finding an even older photo behind. There, in the photograph, were 2 young men counting money, while another sat crying, nursing a bloody nose. "That's me and my best friend, right after we robbed a paper boy on the street. We were hard up for cash, so we kicked his ass and took his money. After a witness saw us, we threatened to kick their ass too if they didn't take a picture. Luckily, they just so happened to have a large camera on them. Mr. Martin revealed matter-of-factly. Those were the days. Trying to keep her body language from expressing discomfort, Grace calmly slid the photograph back in its original hiding place. What's the problem? Do petty crimes make you uncomfortable? Mr. Martin asked. I guess nobody told you that you're taking care of one of the most prolific mobsters of Minnesota. Grace immediately pulled the old photo back out and hurried over to the chair near Mr. Martin.
I love Netflix true crime documentaries,
She said with an excitement in her voice.
What is your story? Who is your friend?
Slowly reaching over and touching the photograph with his index finger, Mr. Martin began to reminisce. That's me on the left, he said, before slowly sliding his finger over. And that's my friend, Fat Jerry.
Fat Jerry?
Grace responded, quickly being pulled out of the moment.
Why do you need to body shame and make it a part of their name? I know criminals commit heinous acts, but Jerry has feeling too, you know.
Oh dear, Mr. Martin said to himself, taking a hit of oxygen. In the 80s, Jerry was obsessed with Run DMC. He insisted on calling everything fat, spelt with the PH. So he adopted the name Fat Jerry over time. It was his choice. At the time of this picture, he was not known as Fat Jerry, but you know how nicknames go. Once you've got it, it becomes your legacy. Wary of slang terms from the 80s, Grace nodded her head. If I'm going to give you a real backstory of my mob life, you're going to have to understand that there will be some questionable things that have happened. Anyway. I was born in the late 40s, one of 6 children in a low-income home. Our father taught us how to fend for ourselves. We never knew how soon those skills would come in handy, but by the time I turned 13, they would be put to the test. My mother died unexpectedly, and my father remarried 1 year later. With my father bringing this stranger into our home, I took my chances with the streets, moving from Iron Ridge up to the Twin Cities, Minneapolis. The streets became my playground. Fights, petty theft, burglaries, you name it. I had to find a way to survive, and crime always kept food on the table. It worked out for me. The lifestyle proved fortuitous for 7 years, until I slipped up and got myself arrested. At the age of 20, I had my first run-in with the law, busted for aggravated assault. The judge decided to take mercy on me and enroll me into the Youth Conservation Commission Detention Center. I could have been tried as an adult, but they felt 20 was a good age to attempt rehabilitation. Little did they know, this detention center was a gathering of Minnesota's freshest and youngest up-and-comers to the local crime scene. This is where I met my good friend Fat Jerry. Jerry had grown up watching his father run illegal poker operations out of his cigar shop and cafe. I guess you could say criminal activity was in his blood. Upon our release from the youth detention center, I graduated to multiple stints in prison, while Jerry went on to commit the biggest burglary of an Omaha jewelry store in the last 20 years. He boosted more than $300,000 in watches, but only got 3 years probation since all the watches were later recovered. Lucky chump. During my time in prison, I met my friend Kent Anderson, the brother of that comedian. He taught me all about the beauty of fine art and lockpicking. Back in the 70s, he actually headed a heist that stole 7 Norman Rockwell paintings in a Renoir. People wrote books about it. Upon my release, I fell in love with my second wife, who decided to go into business with Jerry and me. Together, the 3 of us ran a sauna parlor by the name of Club International. This secret brothel was the most profitable business I was ever a part of. But like most things in the mob world, things move fast, and good times are short-lived. While running my brothel and still being under probation, I decided to cross state lines and attempt a house robbery on an illegal poker game.
Give me your money, chodes.
Shots broke out, and let's just say some things happened that wouldn't be fitting for a true petty crime podcast. I got nabbed for my involvement and spent another 10 years in prison. My wife left me, and together with Jerry, they ran the brothel. I felt betrayed, so I decided to do what I always do to make myself feel better. Crime. From prison, I made new friends and managed an underground cocaine ring over the phone. My hard work and determination earned me the rare opportunity to work for infamous Minnesota hitman, Norman Mastrian. He was just getting released from his 20-year stint for arranging the hit on Carol Thompson, the true story that inspired the movie Fargo. I did what I could from prison, but once we were out, I became a major player in the Minnesota cocaine trade. I even spearheaded our expansion into fashion initiating a burglary ring targeting fur coats valued at $350,000. Gucci, mink, sports cars, and fine art. We were known as thieves with good taste. But it was when Manuela stepped into my life that my taste would reach peak refinement. I heard about the German woman with a penchant for armed robbery through friends of friends. She seemed too good to be true, and she was elusive. Every time I tried to arrange a date, one of us ended up in jail. It wasn't until 1987, after she got out for robbing a restaurant, that we finally met. In no time, we were married. Of course, almost immediately after saying I do, we were back in our respective prisons. But I cherished the time we had. By the mid-90s, we had both done our time and were free to be together.
Wow, that's a beautiful story. So in the end, love gave you both the strength to leave your lives of crime behind to be together?
Well, old habits do die hard. You've got to remember that I've been committing crimes of various degrees since 1960. That's all I've ever known since I was 13. Do you remember my friend Kent Anderson, the art thief whose brother was a comedian? Well, in 2005, he came calling. One last time. I had been retired from crime for an entire decade. Manuela was currently using different aliases to avoid deportation, and we were living a quiet life in my mobile home off Split Hand Lake. It was scenic and relaxing, but the second Kent talked about one last score, all I could see was dollar signs. He told me that there was a museum in Cedar Rapids that housed a very special pair of shoes. Shoes of cultural, artistic, and historical importance. I scoffed at first. A 58-year-old man has no business stealing shoes, I thought to myself. But the more he described them, the more I knew these were not some ordinary piece of footwear. Kent's story seemed like something out of a fairy tale. These shoes had come from a land where the roads were paved with gold, the cities encrusted in emeralds, and even the shoes themselves adorned with the reddest of rubies. My expensive taste-having ass gasped at the thought of such riches. Kent priced them at around $1 million. I had an old jewelry contact from my past. I could lift these old shoes and have the jewels exchanged by the next day. I took my handy sledgehammer and busted through the glass of the museum's front door. Even with the lights off, the red heels shined. They were an amazing sight to be seen. I swung my hammer again, destroying the glass case and throwing the slippers in my bag. But when I took the shoes to my jewelry contact, he unzipped the bag and laughed in my face. "These aren't real rubies, you dumbass. These are made of glass," he told me. To this day, those words still cut like a knife. With Kent's love for art, I gave the shoes to him and asked that I never see them again. Looking at those fake glass rubies would have been too much pain for me to bear on a regular basis. It wasn't until days later that I saw the headlines. Apparently the shoes were part of a 1939 film called The Wizard of Oz. I hadn't seen it. A lot of people were freaking out about their whereabouts.
Are you telling me that you stole Dorothy's ruby slippers from the Wizard of Oz? Wasn't a pair of those recovered back in 2018?
Those recovered slippers and the ones I stole are one and the same. The state of Minnesota has been obsessed with that heist for 18 years. Yes, they were recovered back in 2018 through whoever Kent sold them to before he died. But no one knows who stole them. Not until today.
Why me? Why would you trust me with your confession?
Grace asked, looking over towards a commotion coming from the hallway. Mr. Martin laughed to himself. "Just because I said no one knew until today doesn't mean you were the first person I told." Placing his oxygen mask firmly over his mouth, Mr. Martin and Grace both looked over towards the front door.
"Terry Martin?"
A dark figure in the doorway asked, stepping forward to reveal themselves as a police officer.
"It's about time you showed up,"
Mr. Martin clapped back.
"I called you over an hour ago. I had time to tell this young lady my entire life story."
The officer slowly approached the old man.
"You're under arrest for the theft of Dorothy's red slippers. You have the right to remain silent, although you've already provided your confession."
Mr. Martin unblocked the brakes on his wheelchair and responded,
"Brakes are off. Come wheel me away."
With the officer standing behind his chair, Mr. Martin took one last gasp of artificial oxygen before giving Grace his parting words.
"I did it for love."
In 2015, one of 4 remaining pairs of the Wizard of Oz ruby slippers was stolen from Judy Garland's museum in Cedar Rapids, Minnesota. Over the course of 13 years, the slippers became an obsession for journalists, private investigators, police, and the FBI until they were uncovered during a sting operation in 2018. The sting operation yielded no leads on who had stolen the slippers, as the items had exchanged hands multiple times since their theft. It wasn't until 2020, 2 years after the slippers were recovered, that the FBI began receiving calls from an old man. According to the 2022 book, Under the Rainbow, Terry Martin began contacting the FBI, offering information on the slipper theft in exchange for his wife Manuela's ability to remain in the US after her visa expired. In October of 2023, Terry Martin pleaded guilty to the theft of a major artwork, admitting to using a hammer to smash the glass of the museum door and display case to take the slippers. During the hearing, he stated that he believed the shoes were covered with real rubies and planned to have them taken off and sold. Upon finding that they were fake, he disposed of the shoes within 48 hours of stealing them. The 76-year-old Martin is currently in hospice care for COPD and is only expected to live a matter of months. Terry Martin was sentenced to term served due to his declining health. Term served is used when a defendant's sentence is satisfied by previous time spent in custody. This decision was based on the remaining time left in Martin's life. The judge stated that had he been arrested at the time of the theft, he would have given him 10 years in prison. As part of his sentence, Martin will also be required to pay $23,500 in restitution to the museum at a rate of $300 a month for the duration of the time the slippers were stolen. How's that for complicated, huh? This guy feels like the Forrest Gump of Minnesota mobsters. Famous comedian's brother, art heist, a historical Hollywood treasure. I even purposely left stuff out because there was just too much to the story. Consider this tale a proof of concept for how I believe this should be a movie. The one thing I could not confirm was whether or not Manuela got to stay in the US. As much as the people of Minnesota care about Dorothy's slippers, I can only assume that they'd be willing to make the deal, but that detail was not obvious in the information available. Terry Martin has led a long and crime-filled life. Although I am a bit bitter about paying $3.86 for a month's subscription to a small online publication, that's the price I'm willing to pay to give you such a captivating story. After all, I am a serious journalist, and you all deserve the truth. In this day and age, you can't put a price on the peace of mind the truth brings. I mean, the Grand Rapids Herald can. Apparently it's $3.86. But I'm glad they priced it below $5, because I can only budget so much for my journalistic integrity.
I salute you for making that payment.
Thank you.
Wow, what a life lived.
I mean, it's insane. I had this story for a little bit, and I kept looking, and then I came across the story from the Grand Rapids Herald, and I want to give a major shout out to Pam Dowell, the freelance contributor for them, because Pam did all the research and wrote a 4-part article that is behind a paywall called The Road to Dorothy's Stolen Ruby Slippers, United States versus Terry John Martin.
Wow.
And Pam killed it because Pam worked for the newspaper, was able to get all these crazy sources with all these other local newspapers, and was able to give me like marriage dates and all this other stuff. And the dude's life was crazy. In the format that we do this story, I had to kind of just keep breezing through it really fast.
Yeah.
It kind of made me think of The Godfather in the way that it was just everything just kept happening so fast. But there's just a lot of stuff that he did. There was also like a whole tragedy with his first wife. It was like a love story between him and his first wife. And he kept getting into trouble for doing crime. And then he went to jail and his wife gave birth to twins. On their way back from visiting him at prison to let him meet his kids, they wrecked their car and hit a train.
No.
And the whole family died except for the wife.
No.
And so then the wife divorced him a little bit later, but he ended up having 3 different wives.
Holy crap.
So I thought that was really interesting to his character, because think of how much you'd learn, you'd think, from having something like that happen.
Yes.
We worked with Louis Anderson's brother, who was like a famous crime guy who stole 7 Norman Rockwells and a Renoir. So he had this big story. There was books about that heist. Then he meets up with the dude who set up the whole hit that the movie Fargo is based on. And I'm sure there's a lot of true crime podcasts that actually covered the Carol Thompson story. I don't really know it that well. But when I found that out, I thought that was wild. And also, there's a whole other story that goes along with this. They found the slippers because there was an old retired lawyer and a retired FBI guy who also used to do security for Judy Garland's daughter.
Oh, okay.
They were both a couple just like retired old men that were like, man, I still wish we could have figured that out, don't you think? And the guy's like, yeah, I do too. And the other guy is like, well, I do have a lead because there was a $200,000 reward for whoever could find the slippers.
Ooh.
So then these two old men work together to try to get them, but then the FBI is like wiretapping them while they're trying to get it.
Oh, what?
So that's why there's that big sting, because they thought that the FBI guy and the lawyer were trying to just do an insurance scam to get the reward. They get stopped and then they finally figure out, oh, they were, trying to help us. They get the shoes back. And so that's just where it ends. A lot of people thought that was crazy. They're like, why was there a sting operation and no arrests? Nobody understood what the other guys were trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
They had to come out and just say, hey, guys, we have the shoes back, but we don't have any leads on who did it. And then a couple of years later, Mr. Martin starts calling, trying to save his wife from deportation.
Okay.
One, it's true. She was a criminal. She also did a lot of crime.
Mm-hmm.
She goes to jail for like armed robbing a restaurant. And then she's kind of like going through different aliases, trying not to get deported because you're a criminal. You're here from Germany. Like, we're going to try to get rid of you.
Mm-hmm.
They said that during that time, she had changed her name and she was like a famous horse rider or something.
What? This has to be a movie.
Yeah, it has to be a movie. So then she eventually came back and lived with him. And then he finally came clean and was like, hey, she's here, but please don't deport her. I'll give you some more information.
Yeah. Man, I hope that worked out. I mean, with him being so old and I'm sure she's a similar age, it's like, come on, he's giving you this,
There were some articles that kind of swayed the information in a different way and said that one of the FBI guys had like muscled him with the information about his wife being deported.
Yeah.
But it's like, nah, you maybe did muscle him about it, but you
Yeah.
didn't know about it if it wasn't for him coming forward with it first. So,
Oh my God, this might not be true, but as soon as I realized, what was happening with your crime and what was being stolen, didn't you, and I'm talking like early podcast days for us, like years back, didn't you talk about the ruby slippers getting stolen on like one of your trivias or one of your segments? You didn't go into obviously this detail, but I think you were like, what famous item, blah, blah, blah. Or, I think you did this.
I might have.
Anyway, I remember us talking about the slippers. I don't remember why.
I think I did a 2 Truths and a Lie or something about Wizard of Oz once. Because we had the episode.
We had something about Toto.
It was
I
like
know
Toto's near-death experience. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go back and listen because I'm like, we've talked about these slippers, like something. Wow. I love it. I love how you told it. I love how it was kind of him, telling this little nurse about it all in the story form, kind of reflecting back. And honestly, we haven't really done a mob-ish story. I had that one a long time ago in the beef shop with all the kittens that they let in. And they think that might have been mob related, but this was a full-on mob story, like movie production.
Yeah. I will say, I didn't see anything in there that said that he committed any murders. I know we don't put that in our stories.
Yeah.
When I did say that there was a thing that wouldn't be suitable for a petty crime podcast, I don't mind talking about it. I just didn't want to put it in the story because everything in the story is in joke world. So I didn't want to do it. But when he was in jail to meet the dude from Fargo, they went and took guns, him and like 3 dudes, went to go bust into a house and hold up a bunch of people playing poker in a house. And it just became a huge shootout. One of their friends got shot, and on their way back, he had died in the car. And so what they did was they pulled off on the side of the road and just dumped their friend on the side of the road and then drove back home to Minnesota because they were both still on probation. That had gotten traced back to them, and that's what led him to his longer stint in jail where he met the Fargo guy.
Oh my God.
I just didn't want to do a bunch of shootout noises and be like, hey, we dropped a dead body.
Yeah. That's totally not our vibe.
Right.
But apparently it is for this guy.
It is. And again, it's another situation that had this been a movie, that would be a very interesting scene to have in the movie.
Yes.
So it's important for his story.
Yeah.
It's just maybe not important for this particular iteration.
Yeah. Oh my God. Well, that was really fascinating. I did find kind of a connection where both of our characters kind of were like, this whole like way of life. I mean, I know your guys was like committing horrible crimes, maybe, allegedly, whatever.
At least robberies.
Yeah. And my guy was just naked screaming at trees. But they were both like, this was really working out for me. until I got arrested. We both talked about criminals from Germany, but those are really the only things I can think of.
And I have one that I like more than both of yours.
What?
We both have to do with arts and crafts. You had paper mache, and I talked about the handmade crafts of yarn and having the photographs strung across it as if it was made by children.
Oh my God, that is true. Okay. Yep. We both randomly had that in there.
Yeah, a big focus on crafts for some reason.
Maybe we both need to do some crafting.
I'm not against it, man. Let's do it.
I'm not against it either. Well, I hope everyone out there just is having the best week ever. And remember, no matter the crime, big or small, in the end, we're all doomed.
Doomed to steal some ruby slippers.
And happy birthday, Trevin!
Oh, yeah. Woohoo!
Thank you all for celebrating along with us for Trevin's birthday.
And have you fallen victim to any of these weird health scams? Maybe Goop? Find us on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, or Threads. Live, Laugh, Larceny, and tell us about it.
And have you ever had an awkward run-in with a celebrity? Or stolen a famous item? If so, send us your petty crime stories. livelaughlarceny@gmail.com.
And if you figure out how to go into incognito mode for Spotify, don't use it when listening to our podcast, and go ahead and give us 5 stars there, and on Apple, and on Good Pods, and anywhere else you do it. Just give us 5 stars today. One big, and one little, and one little, and one little, little. That's my country there. Little.
Yeah.
Well, now it just sounds wrong.
I say little, too.
Fuck it. I'm just going to keep with how I said it originally, because now it doesn't seem natural.
You're going to be like, little.
Yeah.
Little.
It's going to be like one big and one little.